beautiful Temescal Valley, an unincorporated area of the city of Corona, a semi-rural area of Riverside County in California, 60 miles east of the city of Los Angeles. Ripping through this valley and meadows runs the Temescal Canyon Road. Next to the Temescal Canyon Road and behind those wooded area of Temescal Valley, on top of those hills, lies a small, secluded and sleepy community called Painted Hills, my neighborhood for the last 15 years. It had always been a very peaceful and quiet neighborhood until the dreadful night of January 19, 2020. An extremely grim and horrible incident, an unimaginable tragedy occurred here on that night. In that house, under those twin palms, a man named Anurag Chandra used to live with his family. On that night, a fateful decision was made by a group of 6 teenagers to simply play an adolescent prank, an ordinary teenage fun game of Ding Dong Ditch on his door. In response, the totally disproportional and unconscionable retaliatory actions undertaken by Mr. Anurag Chandra resulted in the losses of 3 very precious young lives. This also changed the lives of the surviving victims, the offender himself, and everyone related to them forever. 3 long years passed by. The families of the victims had been waiting for justice since that incident. Did they get their justice yet? Did Anurag Chandra plead guilty? Did he ever express any remorse for his egregious actions? Did he ever ask for forgiveness? Did the trial end already? If it did, what was the verdict? What was the judgment? You may also wonder, what did actually happen and how did that happen? To find out all these answers, we have to go back to that dreadful night of January 19, 2020 and try to dig out some facts. It was late at night, approximately 10 p.m., and Mr. Anurag Chandra, a 42-year-old immigrant, just finished consuming a 12-pack of beers, which he admitted during the police investigations that followed after the incident. At that moment, in that late night, Mr. Anurag Chandra, already under the influence, probably became very annoyed hearing his doorbell ringing unexpectedly. He went to check on the door and saw some young kids running away from his front door and getting into a Toyota Prius. This made him extremely angry and viciously mad. He immediately decided to pursue them to take a revenge. Blinded with uncontrollable anger and vengeance, he jumped into his SUV and started to follow the Prius. The only adult among the boys was driving the Prius. Seeing the SUV coming after them with an outrageously high speed, panicked teenagers tried to escape from the neighborhood. The teenager driver took a right turn on Glen Ivy Road, which led him towards the Temescal Canyon Road. Another right turn would have taken him to the freeway, only half a mile away. But Anurag, driven by his unconscionable anger, already lost his senses and judgment, started driving like a madman. Soon closed in. He then sideswiped Prius on the front. Both cars stopped. In an attempt to save their lives, the panicked teenage driver backed up, made a U-turn, tried to get away from the madman again. But Anurag Chandra would not let him. This extremely vicious man did not come back to his senses yet. He was still full of vengeance. He too took a U-turn, chased the Boyes, again with a speed of up to 99 miles per hour, slammed his SUV hard on the rear end of the Prius. The teenage driver of the Prius lost control and crashed his car on this big tree. Anurag fled the scene immediately, didn't even bother to look behind what he was leaving. A witness followed his car and notified police. Soon officers found Anurag's damaged Infiniti parked in front of his house. The firefighters freed the teens trapped inside the car. One boy died at the scene, and 2 others were pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospitals, and all of them were 16 years old. 3 other victims, one 13, one 14, and the only adult driver, who was just 18, were admitted to hospitals with moderate to severe injuries, which they were able to recover eventually. A short time after the incident, Mr. Chandra was arrested from his home on charges of murdering 3 teenage boys and attempted murder of 3 more. He left behind several devastated families, friends, and acquaintances of his young victims, who still mourn their losses. The tree on the Temescal Canyon Road, where those 3 precious lives were lost, became a makeshift memorial and eventually turned into a permanent shrine. 3 small chairs are permanently placed under the tree to bear their memories. Till today, many people come here to pay homage to those lost souls. The defendant, Anurag Chandra, never acknowledged any responsibility for the death of 3 teens, which was the direct result of his intentional and egregious actions. And during his trial, did not plead guilty, never expressed any remorse. Neither did he ask for any forgiveness from the victims and their families. His lack of remorse and empathy must have been very devastating for those families. Some of those families even themselves offered their forgiveness for him. The trial went on for 3 years in Riverside County Superior Court. The district attorney's office argued in the court that the crash that killed 3 16-year-old boys was intentional. On April the 29th, 2023, finally the verdict was in after a jury deliberation of only about 3 hours. Anurag Chandra was convicted of murder. He was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted murder in the crash on Temescal Canyon Road. And finally, those families found their justice they have been waiting for.